This video is meant to be a facsimile of the video that I recorded on my old channel that's no longer available, in which I discussed the ways in which law enforcement tries to manipulate you into doing yourself in, getting yourself in trouble. And my counsel on this subject, I speak as someone who's had who's butted heads with law enforcement a few times, and had the FBI come to my door on one fateful day. And I'm also someone who is sort of a true crime junkie, and I've watched enough of these true crime shows and read enough true crime books to get to glean enough information that even though I'm an amateur with absolutely no advanced degree, not that advanced degrees mean a whole lot anyway, but I've taken in enough to, I think, have some useful counsel if you ever find yourself in a situation in which you are being questioned or harangued or harassed or manipulated in whatever manner you might want to think of that term, manipulate, because you can be manipulated by the carrot, you can be manipulated by the stick, and they do both when they try to get you to confess to something. Now, I'm speaking here as counsel only to those who are innocent. If you've actually done something bad, I do suggest confessing to your crimes and turning yourself in, of course. But the many cases when people haven't done anything wrong, when they haven't done anything illegal, they nevertheless find themselves being grilled by law enforcement. Here's a few tips and pointers to keep in mind. First of all, if you're ever in a questioning room in a one of those settings that they videotape that you see on all these true crime shows, where they show somebody sitting in a room with a behind a table with no windows, and then it's black and white footage from the camera in the top corner of the room, and the cops come in and take a seat across from him, and at first they're all friendly and polite, and then they start pushing the person that they have there to admit to certain things, and then finally trying to get him to say that they know, or get him to understand that they know he did it, and that he might as well just tell them that he did it and confess that he did it. It blows my mind how many people wind up being susceptible in these ways. And again, those who actually have committed crimes, I'm not sympathetic with them at all. If you've actually murdered your wife or I don't know, robbed a bank or whatever you've done, if it's actually a bad thing, if it's actually against the law, if it's actually a high crime or misdemeanor, I'm not speaking to you. But for those who are innocent, keep in mind that these cops are not your friends. Nobody in law enforcement is your friend. No matter how friendly they act, no matter their overtures towards you, no matter how cajoling they are, no matter how much they try to get in your good graces, whether in the standard cliched way by offering you a cup of coffee, or just exchanging pleasantries or whatever, just know that they're not on your side. They're not your friend. They don't want what is best for you. What they want is for you to confess. Why do they want this? Well, if they successfully get you to confess to something, then you are a skin on their wall. You are a success story for them. And, you know, police officers who have the magic touch, who can get, you know, vulnerable people to confess to things, can work them over and just intimidate and entrap them psychologically, to the extent that they extract a confession, even though the person who's under questioning is not actually guilty of anything. Those people, those kinds of officers who do these kinds of things, they are rewarded. They are not punished for getting the wrong person to confess. They are rewarded because it is seen as a skin on the wall, and the police department PR, the police PR department can say, "Hey, look at how successful we are. We put this person behind bars. We got this person to confess. We got that person to confess. We're cleaning up the streets." And so that's something you have to keep in mind. The truth doesn't matter to them. What matters to them, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter to any of them. There probably are some of them who actually want to get the right guy. I'll give them that. I don't want to be too overly jaundiced in how I talk about cops. But I think for a lot of them, they actually just convince themselves, well, obviously this is the right guy, and we've just got to get him to confess. We've got to manipulate him into confessing. Now, Now, if they bring you in, or in my case, if they come to your door and just want to ask you some questions, you are completely within your rights to refuse to answer any of their questions. You have a right to remain silent. Now, the way they'll try to manipulate you is they'll try to say, well, it would be a lot better if you were cooperative with us. Things will probably work out better for you if you cooperate. But the truth is, if they've got you in that scary, cramped room, and they're blistering you with questions, but they haven't arrested you, you can get up and walk out. You can just say, I don't have anything to say to you guys, and you're gone. You can also, of course, at any point say, I'm not going to speak another word to you. I want my lawyer present. And then they have to vamoose by law. But the thing is, most of the people that I see, and again, some of them I will grant are probably actually guilty. But for a lot of them, I mean, for a number of them, let's just say, especially if they take in somebody who's young, or who's who's easily intimidated, or who's maybe not the smartest, not the biggest brain person in the world. Somebody like that is absolutely, I mean, it's deploring. It's deplorable. It's awful. The way in which people like this will, you know, just because they want to please their questioners, they want to please their interrogators, they want to give them the right answer. I've seen, you know, I think it was on true crime shows, I've seen like there was some really heartbreaking episode where there was a woman who was like, you know, borderline mentally retarded, who the cops worked over to such an extent that she confessed to shaking an infant in daycare and killing the child, even though all along she had denied ever doing any such thing. But she just couldn't handle it. She couldn't withstand how they were coming at her. I mean, I think the police who do things like this to these kinds of people, I don't have much sympathy for them. I don't have much. I mean, to me, that is borderline psychopathic, to just grill or work over or just bludgeon somebody who's not fit to the battle of wits. It's just I think it's just awful. But the way that they live with themselves is they say, well, we got her to confess. We got this frightened little kid, this 18-year-old. We got him to who's pissing himself because he's so frightened. Hey, we got him to confess to this, that, or the other thing, and yeah, high five, skins on the wall. We're the best. We can get anybody to confess to anything. So, what do? First of all, you acknowledge they're not your friends. Second of all, you don't have to talk to them at all. You don't have to share anything with them. Thirdly, and this is something that is really important, it is worth knowing that when cops are interrogating people, they actually have the legal right to make up stuff. For example, let's say there's been a murder and they bring you in because they suspect you of having committed the murder and you didn't commit the murder, and you tell them, no, I didn't do this, I wasn't there, I don't know the guy, or I know the guy, but he left my home at 2 a.m. and then I didn't see him after that, I don't have anything to do with what happened to him, blah blah blah, and you're telling the truth, but they keep grilling you and they keep turning the screws to you. Then they are, again, I find this astounding, but it's true. They can legally say, well, you know what, mister, you claim to have been in your home at night, in your home at 3:30 a.m. when the murder took place, and you don't have any alibis. You're just in your home by yourself, but all of your DNA is at the scene. There's a ton of DNA at the murder scene. There are 3 witnesses who recognize you there, who saw you on the spot of where the murder took place, that actually saw you raise the knife and plunge it into the victim's heart 17 times. We've got multiple witnesses. We've got your DNA all over the site. They can say this when it is not true. I mean, I can't. It's incredible to me that is allowed. But it is. And so you have to be aware, if you're in that situation, that, if they say stuff like that, and you weren't there and you didn't do it, you can just say, well, you're lying. You're lying because you're allowed to lie. And you're allowed to lie because somehow it's thought that it's legit to be able to lie in this way to a suspect, because maybe it'll get him to confess, even if they don't have the goods on the guy as far as DNA or witnesses or whatever. If it's enough to elicit a confession, then we're good with it. So don't do it. Be aware, be wise to what they are actually willing to do. First of all, don't be manipulated by their nice guy act. If they, I know the good cop, bad cop thing is kind of a cliche, but if they're nice and if they act understanding, don't ever fall for it. And finally, they're and this is another thing that I've seen and heard about many times, and this is something else that blows my mind. When they're trying to get you to confess, what they will often say is something like, well, look, things got messed up, maybe things got a little out of hand, and maybe you acted in self-defense. I'm sure, I bet this doesn't even go to court. I bet all you'll get is a fine. Maybe at most you'll have to serve a jail time for a month or so. I mean, but so they try to manipulate you into confessing by assuring you that if you confess, you know, first of all, you'll feel better, you'll get it off your chest and you'll feel better, which will be bullshit, which is bullshit if you didn't do it, and you should know that already. But maybe, you want just, if they've worked you over so much and you want the process to be over and you're in over your head and you're not terribly bright and these people are just hitting all of your sensitive spots, all of the sensitive areas of your psyche. You just want it to end. You want it to be over. It's what made that poor young woman confess to shaking this baby when she'd always denied it before, and she always denied it afterwards. It was just because they were working her over that she confessed. So they actually say things like that. Well, if you confess, you'll probably be fine. Just confess so we can get this over with. And then you confess, and then they have your confession on record. Next thing you know, you're being sent up for 15 years without parole or whatever. And you say, wait a minute, they told me that this wasn't going to be, this wasn't a big deal, that I wouldn't be sentenced so severely, and then they laugh at you, right? Because again, they're allowed to lie to you. They're allowed to lie to you about finding your DNA at the scene, having a witness who saw you at the scene, etc., and so on. And they're allowed to lie to you and deceive you about what will happen if you confess. And it's no skin off their nose. They just want a confession, because confessions are good for business, for law enforcement. All right. So, again, if you ever find yourself in this situation, and I when I was in the situation myself with those two young men from the FBI who came to my door, like a couple of Mormons, I was caught off guard, and I actually talked to them, and right now I'm thinking to myself, why did I ever talk to them? I didn't have anything to say to them, and if they come to my door again, I'm not talking to them. I'm sending them on their merry way. Go next door and tell people about the Book of Mormon. I'm not interested. So just a few things to keep in mind on this subject. I know again this subject may seem to come out of nowhere, but it's been on my mind recently. Again, with all of the just hinky stuff that's happening right now. The rule of law being absolutely bludgeoned, First Amendment rights being taken away, Second Amendment rights being threatened. Things are very fragile right now, and it's important. It behooves you to know these things, because I think it's not totally. It would not totally be unexpected if political dissidents, such as yours truly, and such as perhaps you listening to this, we're going to be brought forth, or we're going to be visited again, and these are some things you really should keep in mind. Or if you're just a normal person who's apolitical, these are still important things to keep in mind. Hope I could be of some help. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. My name is Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.